Okay, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Happy Monday. Today, we're going to be talking about something that is very personal, and it's how to handle self-doubt. Again, it's self-doubt, which is sometimes not an easy conversation to talk about. But I'm not talking about the self-doubt that shows up when you're doing something brand new. Like that happens to all of us. I mean, the kind that sits with you even when you're winning. The kind that whispers, but what if you can't keep this up, right? Maybe right after like a huge accomplishment where you win, maybe you hear a little voice that says like, next time, will you do it again? Will you do it? Like, will it be just as good, right? Or the kind of self-doubt that makes you question or second guess decisions that you already know, decisions that you're like, I'm right about this. That little self-doubt that makes you second guess that. And I want to have this conversation specifically in a room with high achievers because I think that high achievers, they experience self-doubt a little bit differently. And so you're not doubting whether you can do hard things because we all know that we can do hard things. And we've already done hard things, but you're doubting whether you can do the next thing and you can do that new thing or that bigger thing, going from, one rung in the ladder to the next one. That thing that doesn't have a playbook, that doesn't have a step by step. And so that is what I want to talk about today. I'm really excited about it because um, I don't know, a lot of us deal with it and sometimes we deal with it silently. And so it is okay to talk about it. So welcome if you're joining us on Zoom or if you're streaming live from one of our other platforms, I want to say welcome. And so the first thing I want us to think about is what does self-doubt sound like? And I do think that it has a very specific voice, but it's different for everyone, right? For some people, it sounds like, who are you to do this? Who are you to like get on that journey? And for others, it might sound like you're going to fail and everybody's going to see it and everybody's going to say, I told you so. And for some people, it's a little bit quieter, right? It shows up as hesitation. It shows up as procrastination. I know a little bit about that. It shows up as over researching, like just looking, reviewing over and over and over and over, knowing that you already have the right answer, asking for one more person's opinion and say, hey, can I get feedback on this? But you already know, right? And that's sometimes it looks like that for some people. So I do want to ask you, what does self-doubt actually sound like to you? Like, if you could quote it, right? What would it say? I'm curious. I'm going to open up the chat. I'd like if you have something, just respond. And I want to give you space here. Maybe you might think about it, and maybe you don't want to say it, but I think it could help. I think it could help others if they hear that some of us are struggling with the things we're struggling with, you realize that you're not alone. So if you want to drop in the chat what self-doubt actually sounds like, I'll give everybody a second or two to post that, and then we'll go from there. I hear overthinking. Okay, that makes sense. Is an act of fear. Ooh, that's a really good one. Okay. Sometimes it's sounds like for me like you got lucky. Like maybe this one time you got really lucky and so that's something that or more like fear in disguise. I love that. So if you're just joining, we're talking about self-doubt and what does self-doubt sound like to you? And thank you for sharing that. Self-doubt is self-sabotage. And I want everyone to notice something. Like if you look at kind of the people who are responding or the people that you're doing life with, sometimes a lot of them are really accomplished. And some of us have the same thoughts in the back of our mind, right? We got here maybe because we got lucky, or, maybe like I'm looking around the corner because like this might fail, right? And self-doubt does not discriminate. It doesn't discriminate based on resume. It doesn't discriminate based on anything. It hits even the most capable people the hardest because you're attempting to do something that's worth doubting, right? You're thinking big. You're like, how can I touch the moon and the stars and the sky at the same time, right? That's the question. And so I want you to even think a little bit more like, when is it the loudest, right? I want to talk about timing because sometimes self-doubt isn't constant, right? It spikes. So like you can be in a season where it's really high and then it comes down. But if you can identify when it's the loudest, you can see it as a signal and instead of stopping you, right? And so if you're thinking, I want you to just think about like when does self-doubt hit the loudest, right? Is it before you make a big decision? Is it even after you've committed where you did the thing and you're like, man, did I make a mistake? Like, will I succeed? Does self-doubt speak loud when you're comparing yourself to others? I struggle with that. When is it the loudest for you, right? I would love to know. Toss it in the chat or unmute yourself. But when do you hear it the most, right? Is it when you're about to start something new? Is it when, and that happens, right? But maybe for you, that's the time. Or is it when you're about to sign on the dotted line? What does that mean? It's loudest when I'm making a big decision. And that is very true. For me, it's mostly after making a big decision. Yeah. So a lot of people, like right after, right? Even before or after, you're like, should I do this? Can I do this? When I do it, will I be successful? And I'll share mine just to kind of help you with, because I'm also struggling with the same thing. And self-doubt is loudest when I try to level up every single time. Right before, I tell myself, okay, this time around, you're going to raise 5 million, right? Something just says who do you think you are, right? Right before I step on a bigger stage, right? And my hands are shaking and I'm like, why do they want to listen to me, right? Right before I put myself out there in a new way. And I've started to recognize this as information. This is what I tell myself. If the doubt is loud, it usually means that I'm getting uncomfortable and I'm about to grow. And so I want you to think about it like that, right? When someone I respect doesn't agree with my decision, ooh, that's really good. Ooh, that's really good. I'll say something to that in a second. But when that self-doubt is when it feels like it's the loudest, right? It means that you're about to leap, you're about to jump, you're about to grow. And it could also be a sign that like you're at the edge of something new. Okay, so I got when someone I disrespect doesn't agree with my decision. And this one is big because you obviously respect that person and their opinion, right? But you have to realize that they might not always be right, right? And even if they're right, and you still feel in your heart of hearts that maybe this is the path you're supposed to go, this decision you're supposed to make, do it. If you fail, you fail and you learn from it and you move on and you keep going, right? But you learn something from that. And so sometimes I completely get that where someone you're like, "Oh, I really want you to agree with me," but they don't, right? Don't always take that as a failure. Don't always take that as a no. Learn from that. And maybe that is the time that you need to veer right, instead of going left. And so, how do you move anyways? And this is a good transition, right? How do you feel that doubt and still move? And this is the conversation that I really want us to talk about today. Let me put my phone on silent. This is a conversation I really want us to talk about today because the goal, I don't think that the goal is to eliminate self-doubt because we all have it, right? If you're building something meaningful, something big, a doubt is gonna happen. When I started building Phoenix, I thought, who's gonna listen to me, right? But that happens. Like when I was getting into medical school, I was like, who's gonna pick me, right? So, but the question is, what do you do about it, right? And so along those lines, right? What helps you move forward? And I love the fact that people are responding and we're sharing with each other because that's how we grow. But what happens? What helps you move forward when the doubt shows up, right? Is there something that you're doing that truly helps you move forward when the doubt shows up? Please share that with us. Like, and I don't want in theory, I want in practice. Like, what is the thing that actually gets you unstuck? Right? Like, yay for the motivational quotes, but if you have like real strategy, what do you write something on the wall? Do you call a friend? What is that thing that helps you get unstuck? Because we all face this, right? And the thing is like, how can we help each other? How can we grow together? How can we build together? I think that's the most important thing. And so if there's something that you've done that has helped you get unstuck, please share it with us. And I will also, I spent some time kind of thinking about what this could look like. And I definitely want to share two things with you, but I'll wait and see if just anyone, if there's something that they do I always go back to my journal and remind myself of the reason why I started at the beginning. I love that. So writing, right? Writing your big dreams and your big goals, and being able to reference that when things aren't going well. Or being able to reference that when, like you think the outcome was supposed to be this and it's not that. And even along those lines, I'll share, had one of my mentors, before I started on my like entrepreneurial journey, he made me read the book Start With Why. And he made me like know my why. Like, what is why am I doing this, right? The what wasn't as important as the why. And that helped along those lines of journaling, right? It was going back to that why, which I wrote on a sheet of paper. And so when things got hard, when I didn't know where the next investor would come from, or I didn't know, how things would go, I just went back to that and the reason why I was doing that. So thank you so much for sharing that. And I'll also share what works for me. The two things that have worked for me is I remind myself of every time that I felt that exact same doubt and I did it anyway, right? I read the book Feel the Fear and Do It. And so I remind myself that I was afraid then, but I still walked on that stage and I still did it, right? Even though I was afraid, even though my hands were shaking, right? I still finished. And so I remind myself that I'm still growing, I'm still building, I'm still here. And that speaks volume, right? The doubt was never the truth. It was just noise. And so if you continue to remind yourself that like I still did it, I still made it, I'm still showing up. It doesn't have to be perfect, right? You just are taking the steps. And the next one I think about is like I shrink the window, right? When doubt is loud, it's usually because like I'm looking at like I want to eat the whole pie, right? I want to take down the whole mountain. And the way I look at it now is like, what's my next move? What's the next little thing that I can do? Not the whole plan, not the whole pie, not the whole mountain, but what is one step that I can take today, right? A friend asked me this morning, and I want to share that with you because I think some people can take away from this when you're thinking about what's the one thing, right? Self-doubt can't survive action. And so I got asked, well, what do you want to accomplish the month of June, right? It's June 1st. And that question, that question helped me because sometimes we look at goals in quarters and months and years and like 5 year, 10 year. But the question was like, what are you doing in the month of June? And that was very helpful for me because then I could break down, all my plans and just say, okay, this is the one thing I want to accomplish in the month of June. Hold on a second. And the moment you do that, you're going to move. The moment you just make a decision and take that small step, that's the moment that self-doubt won't survive because it can't survive action. So the moment you start moving, that's the moment that it starts to lose power. And so I hope that this was kind of helpful. And this is what I want you to do this week. I want you to catch self-doubt in the act. So the next time it shows up, and it will, it does all the time. I don't want you to fight it because we all struggle with it. We all have, and we should be having more conversation around it, right? Because we're all high achievers. We want to, we want to change the world. We want to build. We want to do more than we're already doing right now. And so the next time self-doubt happens, I don't want you to ignore it. I want you to name it, right? So say, that's when you can name it, you can then say, okay, oh, that's self-doubt that's talking. And then whatever it is, do the thing anyways, right? Do that thing, right? So that one thing this week that scares you a little bit, do it. One decision that you've been sitting on, this is the one I'm gonna do it, right? One conversation that you've been avoiding that you're just like, I can't have it. I don't know the outcome. Just have it, right? One move that you're overthinking, just do it, right? And then I want you to come back, share with us, share in the community, and tell us what happened on the other side because I think that it's not going to be as bad as you think. And this is why I know it for sure, right? The people, just think about anyone in your mind who has built extraordinary things, who have built extraordinary lives. They're not the ones who never doubt themselves because they do all the time, right? But they're the ones who they doubt themselves and then they move anyways. They do the thing, right? They're not, yes, they're afraid, but they felt the fear, they felt the self-doubt, and then they still bulldozed. And that's the difference, right? That's what separates being stuck and being free. And that's really what I want you to take away, right? Our Monday Momentum every week is really supposed to be just one small bite size topic. that we can talk about, and then we can go and implement it into our lives. And I think this is especially for a lot of high achievers, a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of builders, right? Especially as you're starting, you will have so much doubt. You will ask, can I do this? Will I do this? Who will support me? Should I go back to what I'm already doing? Why am I doing this? All of those questions, right? But surround yourself with people who can challenge those questions, right? And that's why we have this community. Challenge those questions and then still go feel the fear and then do it. And I guarantee you, right? The result is spectacular. The results will be spectacular. You might fail, right? But it's not about that, right? You feel it, you feel the fear, you do it, you fail, you keep moving on, right? But when you put in the reps and you put in the steps, right? You are closer and closer to success, right? Nobody who has been doing anything for a lengthy period of time actually does fail. You will succeed, but you have to be doing it. You have to feel the fear. You have to squash the self-doubt, and you have to be consistent in everything that you do. So that's all I got. I hope that everyone has a great week. And I want to say, go do that thing, whatever it is, go do that thing. And I'm excited because I don't know, we're building something cool, we're building something amazing, but you do have to feel the fear and you have to do it. Isaiah said, I ask myself honest questions to remind myself my goals and the reasons I took the decision. I love that. So, yes. Any comments, question? Powerful session. Thank you. Any questions, comments, concerns, voices?
I have a comment. Hi. I don't know. I'm sorry, I've not been able to text. I'm
You're
at
fine.
work.
You're fine.
Yeah.
Comment away.
Yeah. I just wanted to say that there are times when I will look back at. I'll tell myself that when I'm in my early 50s now. That when I'm in my 80s, would I look back and regret that I didn't take action, or would I, So that would spur me on that. If I'm going to look back and say, well, I should have done it and I didn't, then I'll go ahead and do it. Anyways.
I love that. Thank you. Oh, that was really good. Thank you for sharing that. Like, what would your 80, your 100-year-old self tell you? Like, if you look back and if he or she was like, man, I should have done that, then do it. Like, don't just like this fear can grip us, but this fear is so tiny. And I would say, right, I think the biggest thing is pick the people you surround yourself with. Because when you are not sure, right, that's when you lean on them. And that's when you really lean on them and you tell and you say, hey, I'm gonna do this. I'm afraid, but let's do it together, right? And they sometimes you might not be able to squash your own self-doubt, but they might be able to help you speak into that. So yeah, that's all I got. Short and sweet. Come back next Monday. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be powerful, but let's grow together. Let's build together. Let's do this thing called life together because I think that when we do it in community, amazing things happen. So thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your Monday.